Kia ora. So, the next part in terms of looking at homestay families is how the student and the homestay family communicate. So like I was saying before, nearly 100% of the time, if there's any conflict or there's any little bit of tension, it's just because of a miscommunication. And it's such a great opportunity for us to practice open, clear communication, even though sometimes we get a little bit nervous or it feels really hard to do that. So, what we're going to do is open up a conversation based around desires, fears, and boundaries or needs. And this is going to happen very early on. So if you can have this open communication and identify where the boundaries and the expectations are early, then it really helps mitigate any problems or miscommunications that might come up later on. So your homestay family is also getting briefed on desires, fears, and boundaries/needs. And there is going to be an expectation that the homestay family and yourself sit down within the first day and have this conversation. Or maybe the second day if you're super jet lagged. But yeah, allow maybe a good half an hour to really get into this. And the more that you can reflect on what your desires, fears, and boundaries are now, then the easier and more productive the conversation is going to be. So let's go into these in depth. So desires. This is really about what you want out of your experience. So if you could think about your ideal scenario, then what would it be? You know, would you want to have a really nice connection with your homestay family? Would you want to feel like you were a part of the family? Would you want to feel like you were contributing and offering something to your families? It's quite a big thing, or it's a big experience to ask for not only yourself to go into a home that you don't know with people you don't know, but also for the family to open up their hearts and their home to you. So it really is a mutual meeting in the middle. So what are the desires? What do you want? How do you want to feel leaving this experience? So have a wee think about that. The next one is fears. Okay, and we all have fears, and usually they'll come up coming into new social situations. So your fears might be around being cold or being homesick or not being able to communicate what you need or maybe not getting the food that you need. So these are all natural fears that may arise, and as soon as you speak them out loud, it just gives a chance for these fears to not keep a hold of you anymore and just to let them be free. Also, if your host family knows what these fears are, then maybe they can help mitigate some of these or really help you feel at ease. Now the last one is boundaries and needs. So there may be some boundaries that you would like to think about that are healthy for you as a person to thrive and to grow. So for example, you may not want somebody to walk into your room without knocking on the door, right? Or maybe part of your need is that you would like to have freedom to go explore the city, and as long as there's a boundary or an expectation around you communicating where you're going, then you would like to be out late at night. And is there a key available for you to get home if it's past the hour when everybody else has gone to bed? So what are the things in terms of boundaries? Like, what are the things that that you maybe feel like, this is okay, this is okay, this is okay. Ooh, yeah, I really don't like that. Or maybe you're not a touchy-feely person, and maybe you don't like a lot of hugs, for example. Whatever it is for you, just have a wee feel about what it is that's a little bit uncomfortable for you, and where your boundary is on that, and also what are any really basic needs that need to be met. So the way the conversation will work is that one of you, whether it's the host family or you, will go first with your desire. So you may spend a few minutes talking about your desire, and then the other person will go and talk about their desire. And then the other person, you maybe, will talk about your fear, and then the other person will talk about their fear. Okay, and then you talk about your boundaries and needs, and then the other person talks about their boundaries and needs. And I totally understand that this may take a little bit of vulnerability to really open up. But in the experience of where I've used this, it's an amazing tool to build connection and really help, really help that communication to flourish. And actually, by the end, you often feel more connected and safer after you've had this conversation. The other thing that you might want to look at is what happens if you know that something's come up for you, so maybe 2 weeks in, something's come up for you that feels a little bit uncomfortable. Now you have a couple of options from here on how you're going to manage this. So you can sit on it and keep it inside yourself. And sometimes it works if it's not really a big deal. In my experience, more often than not, when we keep these things inside of ourselves that we're a little bit uncomfortable, they tend to grow and they kind of get stuck in our bodies and they go into our minds, and then we just think these things over and over and over again, and we feel uncomfortable, and it's not very freeing. And the reason that we keep it inside of ourselves is because we're often too scared to have the conversation about that open communication to clear up whatever that uncomfortable feeling is. The other option is to have that conversation, and often starting the conversation is the hardest part. So between you and your family, you also want to have a conversation about what do we do if one of us feels a little bit uncomfortable and we feel like we need to have a conversation about something. Now, for some of you, having those conversations may feel totally comfortable, particularly if you're more comfortable with conflict. For other people, this is a terrifying thought, and there is no way that they want to bring this issue up. So just have a talk about how you're going to bring that issue up. So it might be, for example, having an opening line like, hey, I'm feeling a little bit uncomfortable. Is it okay if we have a chat? Maybe you and your host family could come up with a code word. So maybe your code word's banana, and you're like, I'm feeling a little bit of banana right now. And then sometimes it's just easier to say that than how we're truly feeling. And then you can open up that door to then have that conversation. So these are all super valuable life skills. Really excited for you to explore this concept. It's also a concept and a framework that can be used anywhere in terms of relationships, friendships, workplaces. So try it out, see how it goes, and I really hope that it helps you have a great homestay experience and really keep that communication nice and clear and open.